Well, I want to welcome everyone to the Youest You show and just say that you're in for such a treat here. And I'm so honored, Dr. Mary, to have you here on the show live. I was enamored with you and the work that you do and getting to meet you through heart math, through exchange. And I'm very grateful. So thank you for being here today.
You're welcome, Julie.
So, one of the things that I like to ask to kick off our conversation is really this idea, this notion of being and living your Youest you. Curious to hear a little bit about what that means to you, and maybe to share just it could be a story or a high point that really showcases that journey of living into your best self, your higher self, your Youest you.
For being your you is you, you have to be constantly looking for where the boundary is and to push that boundary. Story that comes to mind, Julie, is I was in the 1970s. I was a family therapist working in London with kids and families. I did that for 8, 9 years, and I knew there was something else for me. I knew there was a boundary I had to push to do the next thing that would make me my Youest you. Um, so I actually did some taxi driving for a few months just to kind of relax and get me into a space where I would welcome the next part of who I was going to be and how I would unfold in my life. So my point is, if you get too comfortable with what you're doing,
Mm.
you miss the horizon of what to do next. And what emerged from that was that I was asked to take on a job in Sri Lanka. So I pushed the boundaries and ended up as leadership development trainer for the youth ministry in Sri Lanka. So Youest You was about me expanding. I'd kind of done what I was doing, and I did it well and I enjoyed it, but I knew there was more. People were saying to me, why don't you take this job and this job, which was rising up the ranks of local government in London? And I said, no, that's not me.
Mm.
Taking the next promotion in a hierarchy wasn't me. So I stopped and I said, okay, what is the next bit of who I am? Sri Lanka came calling.
I love what you just said. You said it a couple times, and I think this is really important about in order to keep up with the expansion, because there's an idea here of we don't want to be stagnant. That you, in order to expand and to really step into what's next, that it's about getting probably a little bit uncomfortable, but pushing the boundaries. You said that a few times.
Yeah, moving out of what is the comfort zone. Now, the belief has to be, Julie, that I believe we're in this world to become the best version of ourselves.
Yes.
And that if we have that intention and have the courage to move out of a comfort zone into something that's challenging, that's where the quantum field comes to meet us. That's where synchronicity comes to meet us. So
Mm.
to me, living and being your truest self is moving into an uncomfortable zone a little bit beyond the ordinary, and then waiting for what comes your way to take you to the next level.
I want to come back to the quantum field and synchronicity because I think I could talk about this all day. I think it is it's so exquisite when you can really dive into it. Before we even do that, because I'm hearing people might be asking, well, how do you even know? How do you know what your best self? How do you know if it's always expanding? How do you know that? How do you know who you should be?
When you feel comfortable in your skin doing what you're doing, and you do it even if the pay wasn't as good as the pay is. So
Mm,
it's something that you want to do despite whatever material comfort there is. It's something that you know you have to do.
yeah.
Um, and I think people know that. People know when they're in a situation, a relationship, a job, which is not actually making you continue to grow. It's often a little voice that comes to you. It's sometimes synchronicity that actually intervenes. There was,
Mm.
I've been in leadership development and team development for 40 years. Since 1972 to 1980, I was a family therapist. And then from 1980 till now, I've done nothing but leadership development. Now, I was working for a business school in the UK after I came back from Sri Lanka. And I knew I wanted to get back to Sri Lanka. So a job was advertised with a Hong Kong bank in Hong Kong. So not back to Sri Lanka, back to Asia. There was a job advertised with a Hong Kong bank in Hong Kong. I applied. They did an interview, and then they wrote back to me and said, Philip, we didn't appoint you. The job is too junior for you. Because I had a fairly senior job in the UK business school, but they said, no, this job is a junior leadership trainer. You won't be happy. I said, no, I'll do it. Don't worry. I want to be in Hong Kong. They said, sorry, no, we don't think you'll be happy. I went on holiday. 2 weeks later, I came back. There was a telegram. You remember telegrams, Julie?
I do actually. I mean, I lived when, yes.
Right, okay, so there's a telegram. And it said, Reuters wants to interview you for a job in Hong Kong as a leadership trainer. I don't know how they heard of me. I never was with any headhunter. They just found me and said, come for an interview for a job in Hong Kong with Reuters. I did the interview. It was a fantastic job. The job was starting the leadership development unit from scratch, which meant that I actually traveled all over Asia and actually built the programs from scratch. Now, being creative and doing new things is essentially who I am. The Hong Kong job, Hong Kong bank job, which I turned down, was actually running programs that they'd already developed. And I would have been bored silly there because that wasn't my Youest you fitting into somebody else's plan. Synchronicity closed the door on the Hong Kong bank job, brought me back, still in Hong Kong, but a job where I had a blank sheet of paper to write on, because that's my truest self, designing and developing new things. So you can kind of, yes, you need courage yourself to go beyond the comfort zone, but synchronicity always as well comes to support you and nudge you in the direction which is going to be the greatest contribution that you can make by being your Youest you. And I was so happy in the Reuters job. I was there for 4 years. I had a blank sheet of paper. I traveled. I remember the boss of my job there said, your geographic area is from Japan to Cyprus to New Zealand. All the countries in between are yours. Off you go. So synchronicity supports us. The quantum field supports us and nudges to being the you that you want to be. But you've got to make the first jump. You've got to actually be active too. And then almost like the road comes up to meet you. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's beautifully illustrated. A couple thoughts, and then I want to dive into this, the how the quantum field supports us. I can often hear the questions that are coming in beforehand, and I can hear people like, well, how do I do that? How do I, what do I need to do? I'll do anything. But you know what you said, and I think this is important. I've heard it said, oftentimes rejection is divine protection, or, the door closes, or like you said, synchronicity, because you were in tune, had it where the other job would have been, you would have been bored. You wouldn't have been accessing your creativity, your gifts, your skills, your those parts of you that are really here to play and to be in all of what you do. So I love how you said that. And I think for some, when you don't get that job, or you don't get you apply. I have many friends that want to do TED Talks, right? And applying and not getting it. And there might be I love the idea that synchronicity is kind of baked into what's happening, rather than looking at it, oh, it's a failure, or it didn't work out. Like, actually,
Well,
no.
look, in my model, I've done a PhD in synchronicity. I'm the only person in the world with a grounded theory PhD in synchronicity, meaning I've built the model up of what synchronicity looks like. and the book that I'm just almost finished now is called The 9 Keys of Synchronicity. And key number 1 is merging with the present moment.
Mm.
So many people wish their life was different from what it was. Now, it may be that you're in a shitty job
Right.
and that you want to get to somewhere new, but you can only get to the new place by being where you are now.
Mm.
And so many people. So it's a complicated concept in some senses, but imagine that the quantum field is like this magnetic energy
Mm.
that we're all in, and we can actually vibrate to an energy that gets things to come to us. Imagine you're like a mobile phone. We all know mobile phones. How the hell do mobile phones work?
I have no
Well, they work with a base station vibrating the signal to your phone.
idea.
So if you imagine that you're a mobile phone, your vibration determines what comes your way. So many people want something. I want a great job. I want a great relationship, but actually is just a superficial wish. And their own energy is not vibrating with, I deserve a great relationship. I deserve a great job. They kind of have images of themselves that are not quite as strong as what they desire. So
Mm.
it doesn't always work this way, but what I've noticed is that many people don't have synchronicity happening to them because they have a thought set, a mindset and a thought that says, I'm not worthy. So if you want the great relationship and if you want a great job with great money, but inside you don't feel like you deserve it, then it ain't going to come your way.
Yeah, I would love to talk about this. I also, I would love to go through your 9 keys. I think if you're okay, because I feel like this would be so helpful. I love that
Well,
you have this.
yeah, I want to give, they'll all come in the book, but I've got 3 keys which are mindsets,
Ah, okay.
3 keys which are the process of synchronicity happening, and 3 keys which are about integrating synchronicity into your life. A lot of books, Julie, just focus on this happened, it's a great synchronicity. What I was interested in doing is plotting how synchronicity first emerges to how you can actually get it to be a second thought, right? An automatic thought in your life and how to integrate it. So in terms of the mindsets, there is the mindset which is with the present moment. Um, the other mindset is about being open to source.
Mhm.
Now, this takes us into spirituality, and it's a tough topic because people automatically, you mean religion. Well, religions are in touch with spirituality, but there are spiritual people who don't necessarily have a particular faith or religion. It's about believing that there's something bigger than you going on, that's an energy that you can tap into. Um, and the other thing is a mindset of possibility.
Mm,
If you don't believe that the best things are possible for you, they won't happen.
right.
If you wake up each morning and there's this little thought that keeps going around in your mind, I'd love a synchronicity to happen, but it ain't going to happen because good things never happen to me. That mindset will block. But in terms of how synchronicity happens, the other key is what I call a recognizing the out of the blue moment. So, and I like your focus, Julie, in terms of being your Youest you, because if you want to be the best that you can be, you've got to be watching for things that come your way.
Yeah.
And so what I've noticed that in your life, all of us know the pattern in our lives, right? We get on the same bus or we drive the same car, we go to the same job, we go to the same lunch place, we go to the same place with drinks in the evening, we meet the same, all of that stuff. Notice when something unusual happens. So you're waiting for a train and you just happen to get into conversation with somebody and you have the amazing conversation which will bring you something. So watch for the out of the blue event or the moment and chase it. Because when you chase it, then what I always say is the synchronicity has a miracle waiting to happen behind the synchronicity.
Mm.
But in order for that also to be true, you've got to be comfortable with your intuition. Now, we could spend hours defining intuition, but for me, it's a basic feeling that something needs to be the path that you follow, or something you need to do, or you're in the pub and you see this guy and you say, I need to go talk to that guy. I don't know why, I've just got to go stand next to him or her, say hello. Intuition is one thing, but you have to act on it.
Right.
A lot of people lose massive opportunity in their life to become their Youest you, because you actually know you should do something but don't have the courage to do it. When I met my future wife, I met her at a meditation class, and I couldn't do any meditating because I was looking at this gorgeous woman across the room. And at the end, I was thinking, now how do I go talk to her? Because I really like this woman. I'm really attracted to this woman. And I thought of all sorts of pickup lines that wouldn't work. Do you come to yoga often? All that sort of nonsense. So I knew that if I didn't find some words, the opportunity would be gone.
Mm.
And that possibility
Mm.
of finding the love of my life, and all that that's done to make me my Youest you, because our relationships, we learn the most about becoming who you truly are. So in the end of the day, I just went up to her and said, I really like you. Could I see you again?
Love it.
And she was very shocked, because she said, guys don't normally say that to me. But because you said something so unusual, yes, I'll see you again. So, I mean, relationships are one of the great places. I'm not just talking about romantic relationship, it can be close relationships, is where we learn to be our true selves. And this is what intimate relationships teach us. And so, that for me is an example of hearing that little voice say, go talk to this woman. But if I'd stayed scared because she might say, no, I don't want to talk to you,
Right.
what I would have missed. So the voice of intuition you have to hear, but you got to act on it. And a lot of people are scared to do that.
Yeah. I love what you're saying. I think it's interesting. One of the things that I do and talk about a lot is tracking and keeping evidence of these beautiful moments. I do it. I actually started it 6, 7 years ago when I started my business, because I wanted to remind myself that this is the norm. I don't think we
Right,
do
right,
that.
right, right.
And I love your story. I want to ask you though, just it goes back probably to the mindset piece, but this worthiness, to me, it's almost like a sickness in our world of feeling lack of worth and worthiness. Just curious, how do you help, or what have you seen works with helping someone who has that circuitous thought pattern going around not being worthy or deserving? Because that, you said, it can get in the way in that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's for some people's it's stronger than others. For some people's it's less than others. But every human being has a basic need to be loved and accepted just as they are.
Right.
But unless they can do that for themselves,
Yeah.
the patterns just continue, 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 continue
Yeah.
of things not being quite right. So there's no easy way around that. It's just recognizing that unless you see yourself
Right.
as worth it,
Yeah.
as worthy, nobody else will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's this constant. And what I've tried to do in the 9 keys is to give what I have found from my PhD research and in my own life. Uh, Here are some of the keys which seem to reinforce the possibility of synchronicity happening. A
Mm.
lot of people, and I'm experiencing this at the moment, because my 9 keys masterclass and my book I'm getting requests from all over the world. And of course, I want to be successful. But what I hate in the consulting profession is self-promotion
Yeah.
driven by ego. So I catch myself saying, oh, it's great. People want to interview me and talk to me. But I'm very conscious that what I'm doing is serving humanity.
Yes.
Because the message of synchronicity is about saying to everybody, there is this energy system
Yeah.
which we now know through quantum physics seems to explain synchronicity. We can never be absolutely sure, but quantum physics now seems to have a scientific perspective where what is called quantum entanglement, we can actually connect our own energy with the energy of thoughts and ideas and other people. And so that's what I want to bring to the world. Of course, I want my book to be successful and my classes to be successful, but if the ego is driving,
Yeah.
is less likely to happen. So the ninth key, so I've given you 5 or 6 keys now, the ninth key from the people I interviewed said, it seems to be that when you're involved in a project which is about serving humanity in its very broadest sense.
Yeah.
I mean, mums staying at home looking after their kids and making that choice, that's one of the biggest services to humanity there is.
Oh, yeah.
So mums or dads who decide not to work but stay at home, that's service to humanity. And so what people said to me, they noticed that when they were involved in projects which were about helping and sharing and serving other people, these events seem to come to them a lot more.
Mhm. Yeah, so really it's this, what I'm hearing for that, it's really the getting outside of yourself in service of something greater than you, kind of tuning back into, you'd said the no- that energy field, really connecting to that for the highest good of others when you're doing it from
Yeah.
that place, which is not
That
ego.
perspective. That's what people seem to say. I mean, those listening, just go Google quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
If you're still kind of worried about whether synchronicity is true or real or not, go explore quantum entanglement, which gives an explanation of how synchronicities come to us. So, um, I mean, I've been blessed along my route, and I don't think for by accident, but I work with the Heart Math organization. I'm certified in 3 of their programs. I work with Joe Dispenza. I'm one of his consultants that brings this great change program to the world. Exchange, the group now Exchange, I'm just getting to know them a little bit better. I had a great conversation earlier yesterday with Danny Friedland,
Oh, yeah.
and in his videos of what's happening to him, if you actually go there, it's on day 24, there's a video of me and Danny talking about what's happening to him and how synchronicity fits into there.
Mm.
So I've been
Gonna be
blessed
on
with.
here shortly. He'll be on this podcast as well.
There you go. So
Yeah. I know.
Danny,
I was like, there you go.
Danny and now, what a great guy! What a wonderful family, and what a great guy. So I think that the more you get into that state, then things come your way. Things come along your way. I was blessed when I did my PhD to have David Cooper Ryder as my
Mhm.
supervisor.
Yeah, he's
I
awesome.
mean, and that was, I mean, David was a friend because I've done his appreciative inquiry program. Um, but when I was doing my PhD, before I did it, I said to David, David, when I start my PhD, can you and I still have these conversations? And David stopped for a second and said, Philip, would you like me to be your supervisor for your PhD? Now, I hadn't planned to ask him because I thought, he's bound to be busy, but it was handed to me, and I had such a great thing. So I think in life, many things conspire, and I love your being your You-est you, Julie, because I believe we're on this planet to become more of who we truly are.
Yeah.
We're unique individuals, and we have all sorts of ways of manifesting our unique self. Um, and synchronicity, I found, pushes you and helps you down paths which enable you to become your truest self.
Beautiful. going back for a moment, if we can, Dr. Mary,
Sure, I'm in your hands. I'm in your
well,
hands.
there's so much here, and I'm like, you were saying we could spend hours. I love the whole subject of intuition. I've had Dr. Roland McCready talking about intuition and this community. We love intuition, and I think just how does that sync up with synchronicity, and maybe to give a little more form for people to understand that there's a science behind synchronicity. It's not, I
Well,
said,
if you've had Roland on the program, and Roland's a dear friend of mine, and I actually wrote to him today.
yeah,
Um, Roland has this great program. I mean, heart math programs are all, the best and great, great people. But he has in his programs, intuition can be three possibilities.
right.
Intuition, and I'm sure Roland's told you this, but number one intuition is when we've done something so often it habitually becomes easy to do. We instinctively know what to do.
Mm,
So like if you're a fireman, then you see a particular fire and you see a particular set of smoke coming from one of the windows, you just automatically do something. And people will say, well, how did you know to do that? And it's because the brain has seen it so many times. It seems to be intuition, but actually it's double quick brain thinking.
right.
The second type of intuition, often mistaken for intuition, but called intuition, is when you can sense the energies of the earth. All of us have energetic frequencies that we can pick up what's going on with other people, what's going on in the vibration of the earth. And that will actually work with your own energy system. But the third type, and Roland, I'm sure, will have told you this, but the third type is what we call non-local intuition.
Good reminder, though.
Yeah, that's great. No, I mean,
Yeah, thank you. Like, I forgot it. Yeah, non-local.
no, it's okay. I love Heart Math, and I'll never stop praising who they are and what they do.
Yeah.
Uh, the third type of intuition is called non-local intuition, which seems to come out of what I would say is the quantum field. Heart Math have done research that shows that the heart and the brain can anticipate before something happens what's going to happen. And they found that I think the heart knows 3.6 seconds before the brain. So we have in the frequencies of our own nervous system the ability to pick up energies outside of our body. And I talk regularly to Roland, and I was last week talking to him about synchronicity, and he said, well, I just think synchronicity is everywhere. Um, that sense of if we if we think and believe, as science now tells us, there is this field of energy, then the body has various tuning forks, as it were. The heart obviously is a major one, to actually sense this energy system. So if you imagine that, your future job, your future spouse, your future house is actually a thought in the quantum field, then if you're also quantum energy, then vibrating at that level connects you with the thought that's already in the quantum field. There's a great story of a guy who went on a manifestation course, a law of attraction course,
Hmm.
and they actually had to take pictures from magazines, and he was focused on where he wants to live. So he found this beautiful house from a magazine and put it in his collage about, this is the type of house I want to live. Now, then he forgot about it. He became very successful, and like 20 years later, was moving into a new house, and his kids opened one of the suitcases and found this collage that
Yeah.
he'd done 20 years before.
Yes.
And when they looked at the actual house that he put in the collage, it was the actual house that they were just moving into. Now,
Amazing.
how the heck does that happen? He thought when he put the picture there, this is the type of house that I'd like to move to.
Right.
But 20 years later, he was found it was the actual house that he put in the picture. So we're able to pick this up.
Question for you, Dr. Murray, because I always love the kind of getting the, okay, how did that happen? Let's pick it, let's reverse engineer. you started to talk about, I'm just thinking how we apply your 9 keys, because for those listening, I think this is really the question, right? Like, it's about, how do I live into my meest me, your Youest you? How do I do
Sure,
that? How
sure.
do I bring forth, how do I call in that relationship, the house? I'm laughing because I'm looking at my own vision board in front of me with like 3 different insides of houses that I love. And I do this all the time. And a lot of these
Choose
things,
one of them, Julie. Just choose one of them. Throw away two and keep one.
that's been, see, 'cause I have 7 or 8 vision boards. I think we need to get just one. Okay. See, for those of us that are like all of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and I know the feeling. I'm like you.
Yeah. But I
Okay.
think to reverse engineer, and I know, it reminds me of the John Osseroff story. He talks about in The Secret, with this, he was in the house, he realized he'd put on his board. And I think, going back to, how do you do that? I'm thinking, okay, you talked about being in the present moment, being, where you are now, open to source, to the energy that is beyond you. And then really having, you said, a mindset of possibility. So the mindset piece, because I'm thinking people are probably like, well, let's maybe reverse engineer. So we talked about those keys. What are the others? I know you started to talk about the fourth
I've,
one.
I've given I've given you 6 already.
6 already. Okay.
The conversation. So, so what I'm doing here, you see, these came from people that I interviewed when I
Ah,
said, what is it that facilitates synchronicity? And
beautiful.
what is the process of synchronicity? So remember I said that there were 3 which were mindsets, there are
Yeah.
3 which are the process of synchronicity, and
Yes.
there are 3 which are integrating synchronicity.
Yeah.
But the biggest, so there's, having a connection to source, there's being in the present moment, there's seeing for possibilities, there's looking for things out of the blue, there's
Uh,
celebrating when they happen, and then the 9th one is being of service. But the interesting thing, you see, you can't be too mechanical about this.
right.
So yes, the 9 keys, because I'm sure I'm going to have people who say to me, Philip, I've read your book, I've practiced the 9 keys and nothing's happening.
You are. I'm sure of it.
And,
So
and,
good.
and so you see, I already have that
Yeah.
with people who, I'm coaching and running leadership programs for. There's something about synchronicity as well, which defies definition of anything that can make it happen. You can't, the
Mm,
more you want something to happen, I know it sounds strange because one of the keys of synchronicity, and this is now all of them are given to you, is to actually intend and feel. So
mhm.
the more you have a strong intent, the more you dream that you already have what it is that you want, the more you're vibrating for it to come to you. But I've had people for whom synchronicity has just arrived on their doorstep and they felt awful. They didn't feel any spiritual sense. They didn't feel they were serving humanity. What they wanted just suddenly appeared in front of them.
Yeah.
So although we can try and
Yeah.
track it down to the
Mm,
9 keys that I've given to you, remember always, and this is the weird thing because it's strange to actually imagine why this might happen, but there is, I think, a wisdom for your life that already exists that
mm,
you need to connect with. Now, don't ask me, Julie, how this happens,
okay.
but it just because there's no real explanation for it.
Right.
Quantum physics tells you there's an energy system that you can connect with. The world has an energy system, and you have an energy system, and when you connect, things happen. But as well as that, there's sometimes things happen that have got no explanation.
Mhm.
So the one thing that I would say, and I say this in my book, don't get too caught up in your head with following exactly all of the 9 keys.
Mm,
This is more about a feeling of intention and connecting head and heart.
love it.
I'm working with somebody at the moment, and when I talk to her, she says, I've done everything you say. Every morning I read your book, read your article, and I do blah, 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 step by step by step. Why is nothing happening?
Yeah.
And with that type of attitude, I'll say, you need to kind of just chill out a little bit. And very often for synchronicity, a lot of people want for something to happen, and then they keep watching every day. Is it happening? Is it happening? Is it happening? And it's like they put a seed in the ground and then every day keep actually taking the soil away to see if the seed is okay. Can't do that. It
No,
actually
bro.
kills things off.
I love what you're saying. I don't want to so much more I want to ask you, but I have a funny quick story that happened, and
Sure, please.
well, I'm laughing. It's such a small scale of this, but I have a dear friend. We actually do we're synchronicity
Okay,
accountability buddies. We check
okay,
it
okay.
daily, and I had just randomly decided I want a new feel in our kitchen, and I got my husband on board. I said, okay, we're going to redo the floor. And I thought we started looking and going to different places and getting ideas. And we found this really lovely wood that I thought would work well. And I sent her a picture. She's an artist. I said, hey, Valerie, you got to just see this. I think it'll work. What do you think? She said, I cannot believe you just sent this to me. My dear friend, who's a contractor developer, has a 140 square foot tile that looked exactly like this color. She sent me the picture. He had just texted
Wow.
her. So here it gets better. And I thought, oh my gosh. So we were, going to get it. This is this past weekend. My husband then found an app. You can put the kitchen and see what it looks like. And we realized the color doesn't look right. So we found something else that was lighter and not as gray. And I thought, and I was going to tell him the next morning. And he texted me like 20 minutes later, oh, my mistake. The tile actually is this color. And it was exactly the square foot of our kitchen. And it was the
Okay.
color we had just picked out. And I thought, I have worked so hard, right? Attachment to all these things that I want to have happen. This was like the easiest, most hilarious synchronicity. I was loving it. And I just
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and so I
yeah.
went to meet him, phenomenal guy. I took the tile. As it turns out, we're not 100% sure just because it may not be the right
Right, right, right.
but to meet him and to have this happen, what was so great is I was loving the moment of it. I thought, oh, this is fun to play with the universe. This is fun.
Well, and it's that's what happens. You see, it's like you got to play with it.
Yeah.
I mean, little synchronicities happen,
Right.
and big synchronicities happen. Meaning that anything that's out of the blue, that's unusual,
Mm.
that comes your way. And then there are profound things. Well, as you're speaking, I'm just actually thinking about a time when my wife and I were deciding, do we go to Thailand to a place called Phi Phi Island for Christmas?
Oh yeah.
Or do we get a new lounge suite for the lounge?
Right.
And as much as we would love to go to Phi Phi Island, we said, the lounge suite is needed and it's going to last longer.
Right.
So we spent the money on a lounge suite. And it probably saved our lives.
Mm.
Because that Christmas, if you remember on Boxing Day, Phi Phi Island was washed away by the Asian tsunami.
Oh, chills.
So that's a synchronicity in the sense of
Mm.
choosing to look after the home
Yeah.
meant we didn't go to a hotel that for sure was swept away during the tsunami.
Yeah.
Now, who knows whether we'd have died or not, but
Right.
all of these little and big things happen all the time.
Mm.
Um, and I've just grown wise enough in my years now to know when something unusual happens, just listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, don't go overboard. I have somebody who says, oh, I found a book today that I like, and the color of the cover was gray, and I'm wearing a gray blouse. That's not synchronicity. A
Right.
lot of people kind of go overboard
Yeah.
and say, oh, this means this means this. So don't go overboard with it. But when you're committed to becoming your authentic self,
Yeah.
watch for the things that happen along your way, which are out of the blue. My fourth key is watch for out of the blue events. Um, and to really, everybody knows when their heart is no longer in a job that they're doing
Mm-hmm.
or no longer in a relationship. Now, I'm not somebody that says if you're no longer in the relationship, let go, because that's too easy. Divorce is too easy in today's world. Because I think we're supposed to work on stuff. I'm a marriage counselor by training as well as the leadership coach.
Wow.
So I say to people, you will often marry people who are your opposites.
Mhm.
And instead of leaving somebody because they're too different from you, work on integrating the differences with who you are. But when you do that in a relationship, synchronicities also come to kind of support and challenge and help. There's so much more we could say, Julie. Ask me one or two more questions to finish off, if you like.
Yeah, I don't like to say my mind is blown. I always say my mind is glown. It's glowing. It's just glowing. This has been incredible. And the last question, what I really wanted to ask you, and it actually ties in beautifully, I think, to the ninth key as well, which
Right, right.
got it about, involving and serving humanity. And just from my own um, training with exchange and with appreciative inquiry, it's funny, I was trained first as a coach from David Cooperrider's work, and
Okay, okay.
fell in love with AI, not the artificial intelligence, although that's a whole other thing. And I just fell in love with this, the minute you ask these questions, there's
Sure,
already
sure.
an energy, a reality meeting you there. And am curious, Dr. Mary, about, so synchronicity is obviously such a passion of yours, and it's a passion of mine. Why is this? Why is your work, why is this work around synchronicity, why is it so important for the world, and why is it so important right now? Curious.
Don't forget, a lot of my work is working with leaders and teams.
And leaders and teams.
So I'm focused on synchronicity because over the last 10, 15 years, synchronicities, strong and powerful synchronicities happened to me.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to say, how does this now look for leadership and for teams?
Hmm.
And so I'm integrating that into my leadership and teamwork.
Yeah.
But it's important for the world because I think that we are shifting and have been for 100 years away from a Newtonian mechanical way of looking at how the world is organized. We now know that we are not separate individuals. We are energetic systems, and energetic systems are connected with each other and can find answers to problems that we don't even know there are. For example, when Chernobyl happened, the
Mm.
nuclear disaster in Russia, the week before Chernobyl happened, many of the people in that community were having dreams about a disaster about to happen.
Mm.
Now, if somehow there was a way of capturing that,
Yeah.
and so think about this in your own team at work or in your own life, if there is a way of capturing these out of the blue synchronicities that come our way, then there's ways of actually solving a lot of the world's pressing problems. And so I think it's useful for your own life, it's useful for your own career. But what I'm as much interested in, I do a lot of work with the United Nations. What I'm as much interested in is what it can do to really begin to solve some of the world's pressing problems.
Well, I just want to say amen to that. Whatever word, aho, like, and so it is. That work to me, I'm almost speechless, because what you're doing is, to me, it's so powerful, and I don't know anyone who is doing work like this, and to really, capture really these messages that are being transmitted through the field for all of our highest good,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
capturing those and using that versus an egocentric information, but using something from source.
yeah.
uh, I just, it's exquisite what you're up to. Honestly, I all I can say is I'm so aligned, and I'm so grateful to have you here today. Maybe we'll be lucky enough to have you another time and do a round two. Your work. I remember your story about finding your house. I mean, I know there's so the who is it? The country singer or the rock singer that
John
you had?
Denver.
John
John,
Denver. That's
John
right.
Denver appeared in my life within 2 days when I wanted to talk to him. Friday evening, I want to say thank you to John Denver. 2 days later, he called me at home. These things, the thing that, I mean, the last thing, Julie, is that the thing that keeps synchronicity going, for anybody who doubts it, are the
Yes.
stories. The stories of synchronicity happening, meaning things turning up out of the blue that made no rhyme or reason, show that synchronicity is alive and well.
Yeah. Well, I am just gonna, and I'm gonna invite anyone listening to share your stories. We have a really amazing USU Facebook community. Share your stories. We do that there, and
Sure,
I
sure.
take
Go and see Danny Friedland's video. There
yes,
is a 1 hour talk. He and I talked yesterday. I have so much love for Danny and what he's doing. And he and I talked yesterday. There's a video there of him and I talking about what synchronicity means for his health challenges and all sorts of other
yeah.
situations too.
We'll have the link here as well, so that we
Yeah,
can
okay.
everyone to look
Okay.
that up. I just want to thank you for your
You're very welcome. You're very
beautiful
welcome.
work in the world and who you are.
It's near to midnight now here in Singapore, and
Ah, okay.
it's a great way to finish the day, Julie. So thank you for inviting me. I appreciate the view behind is the view from my balcony here in Singapore.
I love it. I thought it was daytime, but of course not. We're
Well, it's nighttime now, but this is taken during the day,
yes.
and I love this. So good to talk to you, Julie.
Thank you so
You
much.
be well, and all your listeners. I wish them lots of love and lots of synchronicities.
Thank you so much.